Welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that is perfectly balanced, as all things should be. My name is Isaac Edlin. I am your host tonight, and I have just one other Infinity Bro with me, but he is arguably the best Infinity Bro, especially when I am the host. It's Zane Ellis.
Happy to be here. It's not nighttime, though. It is definitely morning, but...
Yeah. It's kind of a weird thing because, like, you and I work night shifts, so we're up at night all the time. But the only time we ever record morning episodes in the Infinity Bros podcast, it's me and you.
It's always me and you, literally.
Yeah. Like, after our night shifts, we're just, like, raring, ready to go, ready to pump out some content for the Infinity Bros universe.
We know it's got to be me and you because, like, I mean, Max doesn't get up till 11:30. You know, rough laser tag night before.
Yeah.
Robbie
exactly.
would get on.
Went to bed at a crisp 10
yeah,
p.m.
exactly.
And he has to get his beauty sleep.
Robbie would be on, but that would skip his second gym time of the day, so he can't be
second
on.
Workout session.
Yep. So he can't record.
Mark is actually busy taking care of.
Yeah,
baby,
Mark actually has a baby, so that, like, he's valid. Jarrett, I don't know. He's probably, like, getting water from the river, and
he's running on his hamster wheel
to generate the electricity.
To get his electricity going. We mentioned in the patron exclusive portion of this podcast, which you can go to Patreon and become a subscriber to the Infinity Bros to get access to.
Do you just keep using those?
Zane and I,
do you just keep using those interchangeably? I've heard you go back and forth from saying Patreon and patron.
It's weird because, like, it's called Patreon. But if somebody subscribes,
they
are a patron
of Patreon.
So, like, I get them mixed up quite a bit, as you'll notice as we go through these episodes. But
that's fair.
If you subscribe to our Patreon to become a patron, you will have access to all of the bonus content, and our very first actual exclusive episode came out last week where Max and Mark talk about even more, which our previous episode 127 of the Infinity Bros podcast, is Max and I talking about all of the Marvel announcements from San Diego Comic-Con. But that wasn't enough. We talked for an hour and a half. There were so many announcements that came out. We didn't even get to anything non-Marvel related in our main episode. So you got to go check out the Patreon exclusive stuff to get all of the other content that we came out with. Max and Mark talked for another, like, hour and a half about and it's Mark, so they're going deep into the weeds and, you know, like, talking about all the things that potentially could be happening in the MCU down the road. It's wild stuff. So definitely want to check that out for sure. Well, Zane, we are here to not talk about San Diego Comic-Con and all of the Marvel news, although there still is a buttload of stuff coming out even now as we approach the Disney D23 Expo later in the year. We're expecting more Marvel news from that, even though we still had a ridiculous amount of content and news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con. But we wanted to kind of rewind a little bit and go back to a show that ended, over a month ago now, which is The Boys on Amazon Prime. So, yeah, we all absolutely love this show, and we just haven't gotten around to it because of all of the other stuff that's been coming.
So does this technically make this a Time Stone segment? Because we're doing this a month later.
You know, that's a great question. What qualifies a time stone? Does it have to be years in the past? Is it months, days, weeks? Like, what is it?
Time would just be any of that. Even though I feel like our time stone's mainly been, like, stuff that's been way years in the past, but True. We're usually on top of, like, getting the reviews out of big shows like that, whereas here we're coming out with our review of this significantly later.
Honestly, I've tried to sneak it in, like, in different episodes and stuff, but it's just, like, last week we talked about San Diego Comic-Con, and we could have talked for another hour on all that stuff. We had the Ms. Marvel finale. We had, what else did we have? We had a movie. Thor Love and Thunder came out, we've had a ton of stuff that has ended or come out since then. So
hang on, you're gonna sit here and tell me that we're all super opinionated and we can all sit and talk about anything, that like we don't have time to get to other things? No, that doesn't sound like us at all.
No, that couldn't be us. Couldn't be us.
I can't fathom our podcast ever going over 25 minutes.
Woof. Gosh, if you go back to some of those early episodes, like me, you, and Max literally had a 3-hour podcast. I think it was episode 2 when we were talking about we were talking about pre-Avengers Endgame. I think like all of our theories and predictions of what was going to happen. We literally sat there and talked for 2.5+ hours, and then we were like, oh, I guess we should probably stop at some point. I remember you and I and Max were actually at Max's house recording that episode. And we're just talking, not even paying attention to the time at all. And then we were kind of like towards the end of it, we were like, oh gosh, we should probably wrap this up.
Right. We're just rambling on, just kept talking. We're like, just
going on and on. So yeah, if you're new to the Infinity Bros podcast, you can go check out those older episodes. But honestly, I would probably not recommend it. We've come a long way since then. So
true. Check
out some of the recent episodes for our more recent reviews and stuff like that. But if you want to be feeling nostalgic a little bit, go check out those earlier episodes as well. Just want to throw out before we get to our advertised content, a quick shout out to our good friends at Many Worlds Tavern. I am currently drinking some Great Old One, which is a dark roast that they have. Awesome company. Make sure you guys go to manyworldstavern.com/theinfinitybros. You can get 10% off of your order by using code theinfinitybros at your checkout. Have tons of awesome gaming related. They kind of have this D&D theme, and it is really cool. They have these tokens that you can use for Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. Really cool company, really great coffee. Make sure you guys check that out. All right, Zane, are you ready to dive into The Boys?
I was born ready,
Zane was born ready. Zane's always
I don't think I have much of an option either way. Like, let's just get after it.
True. For those of you guys who are not familiar with our rating system, we have a very special way to rate things on our show.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an infinity step.
And I'm going to put like a very special warning here. First of all, we're going to be spoiling season 3 of The Boys completely. If you haven't watched season 3 of The Boys, make sure you pause this episode, go finish that up, and then come back. Additionally, if you are sensitive to graphic content, probably don't listen to this episode and don't watch The Boys because that show is wild. And you probably already know that if you're listening to this episode. But I just wanted to throw that out there. We're going to be talking some wild stuff in here. This season especially has been just bonkers, off the wall. And if you're listening with your kids, maybe just skip this episode, move on to the next one. Go back and listen to our Miss Marvel review. That's a great show for kids to watch. But this one, not so much. So here's our spoiler warning.
This is...
Prepare yourself.
An Infinity Bros.
Prepare yourself.
Spoiler. Warning.
All right, Zane. The Boys Season 3 finally came out, and man, we were waiting for this one because I think previously all of us have rated seasons 1 and 2 of The Boys very highly. This show is a great kind of like social commentary on what's happening today. Incredible acting. It's based on a comic that, arguably is not the greatest comic in the world, but the show writers and everybody at Amazon Prime have picked this up and really made it into just an incredible story. Probably I mean, arguably better than the comic book run. I don't know if there's too many shows or movies you can say that are based on comic book storylines that are better than the comic book, but this is probably one of those shows. So, man, just first of all, let's go through kind of just a non-spoiler quick review of season 3, and make it like a quick 60-second thing. What did you think, and what was your rating of season 3 of The Boys?
Yeah, so season 3 just like picked up and just kept going with everything it had, and like I think that's something that the show's done a very good job of, just like from season 1 to season 2 to season 3. Like it really doesn't feel like it's lost steam. Like it's continually just kept moving the flag. Like it's just, full steam ahead, and it's been kind of refreshing to watch. But yeah, like you kind of said there in the opening a bit, like just how much this show has been with its social commentary, which is really, I think that's added so much to it, and that's really kind of made it it becomes a parody of the real world. And anytime you have stuff that parodies the real world, like it resonates differently with people. And again, this season's no different. Also, coming into it, you're just like, I don't know how they're going to ramp things up from what we've had in previous seasons. They do that immediately in the first episode, and you're just like, why? These guys are insane. Like, it just keeps going. But just they took a story that you had from the comics that, yeah, it's really not that good of a story. It's really more focused just on, the gore and how much crudeness can we pack into this. And they're like, we're going to take that, and we're still going to have that in, the show and in the story, but we're actually going to give, like, more in-depth and complex storylines. Like, we're actually going to make you care about these characters or hate characters, or like they're actually, fleshing out a story that people, I don't necessarily put it as relate to, but you can see the symbolism and stuff and see the parallels, whether, one side or the other. And I think it does such a good job, and you're just like, I don't know what's going to happen next, but like you're here for the ride, because it's just like, it's blown your socks off every season so far. So it's like, I just keep going. So yeah, season 3 for me is still 6 out of 6. Like, it was so well done.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that. I also give this season a 6 out of 6. Like you said, the comic book is, I've read, I think we mentioned on the Patreon exclusive portion that I've read a few issues of this comic book, and that was enough for me. I was like, oh, wow, there is a lot of stuff in here that I don't really want to dive into. And it really wasn't interesting enough for me to keep going, honestly. But this show has been completely opposite. I've been 100% engaged from the very beginning of season 1. Homelander is probably one of the best villains that we've had on TV in a very long time. And man, he just keeps it up this season. We get a great, I don't know if you even call him, like, it's weird that the roles are so different in the show, but like Soldier Boy he's still basically a antagonist, but you're working with him through a lot of this season. But he also introduced in season 3 is just fantastic. Jensen Ackles, who plays him, just does an incredible job. And Anthony Starr is who plays Homelander. Wow. Some of the best antagonists we've had on TV in a long time. So I think this season is incredible. They do some bonkers off the wall stuff. They still make it work with the story, though. They don't go out of their way to be crude or well, I will say there's one moment that we'll talk about later that they do, but it's basically for shock value to get you into the season in episode 1. So anyways, a little teaser there, but man, it's incredible season. They do such a great job of keeping you engaged through this storyline again, and the social commentary aspect that you mentioned, just incredible how they adapt what's going on in our world right now to kind of fit what's going on in the storyline. They kind of, show both ends of the spectrum of these really hardcore conservative groups and the other side of, the really liberal or even the corporate side of things. Really just a really well told story all around. So 6 out of 6 for sure. All right. Deep into it here, I'm just going to give a quick synopsis. We've got season 3. It's been a year of calm. Homelander is subdued. Billy Butcher works for the government, supervised by Huey, of all people. Both men itch to turn this peace and quiet into blood and bone, so when the boys learn of a mysterious anti-soup weapon, it sends them crashing into the Seven, starting a war and chasing the legend of the first superhero, Soldier Boy. We get, the whole cast returning, and I already mentioned Anthony Starr as Homelander. You got Karl Urban as Billy Butcher, Jack Quaid as Huey, which, gonna be completely honest, I was not paying attention in the first 2 seasons of The Boys, apparently. I had no idea that Jack Quaid was Danny Quaid's son. Zero clue. And that was more because I didn't know who Jack Quaid was than anything. But I saw his name and I was like, Quaid? Like,
yeah,
is he related or something? I looked that up and I was like, what? Are you kidding me? So that blew my mind. Erin Moriarty is Starlight, and I won't go over too many of the other ones, but then you get Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy. But man, let's dive. So we already mentioned kind of that this is a very graphic, crude show, and generally they use it very well. But we dive into episode 1, and we mentioned our group chat blew up. I remember when episode 1 dropped. 12 minutes into episode 1 of The Boys, we get a scene, a giant wiener scene, where they're at some party or whatever, and some other random supervillain shrinks down and goes into another dude's wiener. Just bonkers, off the wall stuff. That probably is the only scene in this entire season that is that was completely unnecessary. But man, did it shock you or what, Zane?
I'm just sitting here and these are words that I never thought you'd be sitting here saying out loud, let alone on a podcast. That this dude just shrunk down and just went into another dude's wiener.
Just what is going on?
And even who even thought hey, yeah, we're gonna make this scene, and then they give some the clips on it. There's oh yeah, so we built this 12-foot tall and you're just
yeah. Do you see those pictures of the set? They built a giant wiener. They built a giant wiener,
this
guys,
wasn't
and it's
just CGI. They built this for special effects, and you're
wild, just wild.
I wonder how much of the budget went to that.
No kidding. How much of the budget went to build the giant wiener? I am just wild that they decided to do this. And honestly, it's not a bad choice, as far as getting your audience hooked, because there is a good chunk of the people watching this show just watching to see what the heck they're going to do next. So in that sense, it's not the worst storytelling decision. Was it over the top and probably unnecessary? Yes. But wow, did they get people talking?
Well, not only that
first episode of The Boys.
Not only that, but it's just it had nothing to do with anything. It didn't further any plot. They're just right. We're just going to do this. And then when you listen, I don't remember if it was Crippy or whoever the producer talked about it, the whole thing was born out of the whole stupid thing from, was it Endgame or whatever, of what would happen if Ant-Man went up Thanos' butt and just expanded. Yeah,
I did hear that was
the entire that was the entire basis of why they did this, because they were what if that, and so they changed it up. They decided to go the wiener route with it, but they're that was. They wanted to create that meme.
Right, not only the wiener route, but then the guy sneezes because he's on drugs and totally eviscerates this guy that the wiener he's in. Like the bottom half of him explodes, and you see him on the bed, and his entrails are hanging out. He doesn't have a bottom half because the guy was inside of him and got back to his normal size. So like you go from one extreme to the other, and it's like, holy crap, what is going on? And like you said, this has zero bearing on anything going on in the season. Like they could have left this out and been completely fine. Like it wouldn't have changed the story at all. So that was the one moment of unnecessary gore, probably, or graphic, content in the season that didn't lend itself to anything at all. Holy man. So the first thing I want to touch on here, Zane, is obviously we've been talking about the kind of crudeness and stuff of this show. It was kind of widely anticipated. They announced way long time ago, probably like 6+ months ago, that they were going to be doing Herogasm in this season. And Herogasm is probably one of the more popular storylines of the boys in the comics. It's when they have this huge superhero orgy, basically. They tell everybody, they tell the government we're going to go off and save the world in this alien invasion. They just go to a resort and have a giant superhero orgy. So everybody was like, holy crap, how are they going to do this? And even up to that episode, which I think it's like there's 8 episodes. I think that's episode 6 in this season. We were all like, how are they going to fit this into the storyline? Like, it didn't seem like this was going to lend itself to the story at all. And they flawlessly weaved Herogasm into this storyline. Like, I was shocked how well it worked into the storyline of this season. Like, Herogasm was, I don't know if unnecessary is the right word for it, but like, even though we're literally through that whole episode of Herogasm, we're walking through the halls of this like person's home, and there's obviously orgy stuff happening. Every room you walk into, Mother's Milk at one point gets sprayed with a giant hose of bodily fluid, and just wild stuff happening. But at the end of the episode, it's not about Herogasm. It's about Soldier Boy facing off against Homelander and Billy Butcher all at the same time. Like, that episode wrapped up, and you weren't thinking about the giant superhero orgy. You were thinking about the intricacies between the relationship of Billy Butcher and Homelander, and now Soldier Boy's thrown into the mix. Like, they just did such an incredible job of weaving that into the storyline.
Well, not only that, but you went from this immediate, like, what you had with going on with the Herogasm stuff and all the orgy, like all that, but the immediate transition to the actual fight with Billy and Soldier Boy, and of course Billy, was on the 24V or whatever, and that's like the impact of this. Like, you forget about everything else that was going in the house, because like that's the first time in this series you can actually see Homelander like be scared. Like, that's the first time you see him experience fear. And it was like, that was so well done and so well shot. And like, it completely, and then not only that, but then just the end scene then with A-Train go against Blue Hawk or whatever. Like, that end, just, you forgot about everything else that happened.
See, that's another undertone that's not even, they could almost take that whole storyline out, and it wouldn't really change the tone or anything about the main storyline. Is A-Train kind of having this like internal struggle, is like he can't be the superhero that he was because he's got like this heart condition, and his brother is like this leader in their community, like largely black community, of like advocating for these people in their community and stuff like that. And this other random superhero who's totally racist is like, picking on this community, and he has to like stand up to him. He ends up killing him in that episode, which you already referenced. But like that is such a applicable minor storyline in this day and age. Like, you're watching that storyline, you're like, this happens on like a daily basis. It's so crazy how they like applied all of these different aspects of this show, or, you know, picked out like real life aspects and applied them to the show. And, you know, the irony of him, he does that and then kills whatever Blue Falcon or whatever,
Blue Hawk or whatever,
the
Blue Hawk, I think.
Yeah, kills the guy, and then his heart, you know, basically explodes. They warn him if he does any activity, his heart is gonna explode, and they give him a heart transplant with the guy that he killed,
right?
The racist guy that he killed, and, you know, not to mention that earlier in that storyline, his brother gets paralyzed by this guy, you know, throwing an outrage in where he was supposed to be giving an apology. It's just like, it's so perfect. It's almost like on the nose, but it's not. It just like slightly misses being on the nose. And so like, if you're not really paying attention or you don't care about that storyline, you could absolutely miss aspects of it. Like, you can't miss the whole thing, because it's a pretty, like I said, it's like almost on the nose. But just, man, the way that they take these different aspects and bring it into the storyline has just been incredible. So, one note I wanted to mention on Herogasm: highest rated episode of all 3 seasons of The Boys, 9.7 on IMDb, which is just mind-boggling considering, and like, all of the
everything that's in it. But like, thinking back on it, like, it has to be because of that ending. That fight was so good, and just like it's just, yeah, you just completely forget about everything else that happened. You just see that the fear of home. I think that was the one too, when they get Soldier Boy, and that's when like Black Noir runs away. Like, that's when stuff, you realize, like, yeah, this is when stuff starts dialing up, and you're just like, so yeah, it's like, yeah, you see that as a 9.7. It's not because of the Herogasm stuff at all. That is not why it has a 9.7.
Not at all. Yeah, just crazy stuff. And, you know, we got the kind of storyline of Billy Butcher and Huey for a short amount of time taking the temporary V. And, man, the showdown between Billy Butcher and Homelander, because Billy Butcher at that point has basically the same powers as Homelander. And Homelander looks at him. He's like, huh, well, that's different. It's just like, oh, wow. OK, this is awesome. And I thoroughly enjoyed Jensen Ackles' Soldier Boy.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if there was a better casting that they could have done for Soldier Boy. Like, he was absolutely perfect in that role. Just like, dude who is full of himself, doesn't care. That's the difference between him and Homelander, is that Homelander cares so much about what people think of him.
Yep.
Soldier Boy could care less.
Right.
Doesn't care at all. And he's just going and doing his thing for his own reasons. Homelander's doing his thing for his reasons, but he's got like kind of these barricades in his mind of like, he still needs people to love him and like him, so he still has to maintain this public image. But man, just 100% best casting they could have done for Soldier Boy, Jensen Ackles. And his voice was perfect, his demeanor, just everything about him was perfect. So I think this is probably my favorite season of The Boys to date, for that reason, is Jensen Ackles was just a perfect choice for Soldier Boy.
I agree with that. Yeah, no, like, it just, and I knew he was going to be good, just everything, because like, I was a huge Supernatural fan coming in, and it's like, I knew a lot of like what Jensen Ackles could do, and yeah, he just, like, that role was just like made for him, and he absolutely crushes it. And yeah, just the contrast you got. You not only have the contrast of Butcher and Homelander, but then they're like, hey, we're also going to add this third character, which is still different than both of them, but it's still contrasting all of it. And you're just like, it's still so balanced how all three of the interact and stuff. It's just like the writing on it is just so well done to introduce that, and then how the story is going right now, or to at the end. Like, you're just like, this was very well done.
Absolutely. Was there a more memed season of The Boys than this season. I think there was like 3 separate moments of Homelander reacting to things that got like immediate GIFs and like became like viral memes on Twitter for sure. I don't really pay attention to a whole lot of other social media besides Twitter and TikTok, but I saw those GIFs of Homelander on Twitter so much over the course of this season.
Yeah.
One is when he is on the rooftop and he like actually is scared no, he's not on the rooftop. I think he's at that farm or something. And he actually like you see fear in his eyes for the first time, and he's like kind of having a little mini panic attack, and that moment was just powerful. And then to see that turned into a viral meme was just incredible. And then just there's so many great moments in the season that lent themselves perfectly to memes throughout the season.
It's gonna get it's the internet, like it's gonna get memed. Like if there's anything even slightly remotely like, hey, we can turn this into a meme, it's gonna become a meme.
It's gonna happen. And the boys, they seriously are like, yeah, meme us,
right?
Yeah,
literally
do it, like,
literally.
I don't know if you guys, any of you have been paying attention to the boys on social media, but like they have a VOT International account that literally treats itself as it is VOT in the show on social media, and people reply to it as they are in the boys universe. Like it's actually very entertaining to go through those threads, and like people are responding like, oh no, Homelander's right, Homelander's the best. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. But like, so we go through Homelander finally at the end of the season, which again, I praised Anthony Starr's performance at in our non-spoiler review, but this dude is becoming an iconic villain of this generation. Like, he is just chilling. He plays this part perfectly. Everything about Anthony Starr as Homelander is perfect. I think he was a perfect casting. And like, he'll never get to the point of like Darth Vader in Star Wars or anything like that. But like superhero wise, he's got to be up there in popular villains right now. Just, man, he just plays his part so well. So yeah, do you have any other comments on him as Homelander? Or
no, I think it goes back to, I know it's stuff that I've mentioned before. It's like a big thing that can make or break a show or movie is having a good villain. And it shows just that, again, if you have a fantastic villain, like it just helps carry a show so much more.
Well, and we've been talking about Phase 4, on our podcast for the past year. And really what has hurt Phase 4, it's not the new characters that they're introducing. It's the poor villains that are in these movies and shows. Ms. Marvel, for example, the most recently, the clandestines were pretty lame villains, and they weren't engaging. They weren't fun to watch. So Ms. Marvel, I think, fell flat because that's one of the reasons that Marvel kind of fell flat. Ms. Marvel fell flat a little bit. And then go back to Black Widow. I just saw a tweet that, that was probably the worst villains we've had in a Marvel movie, maybe ever. But like,
which that makes it even worse because Taskmaster's such a cool villain, and it was so butchered.
Know, it's so sad.
Like, sad. That bugs me.
Yeah, exactly. And, maybe it's possible that we could see Taskmaster back at some point. They kind of left it open-ish to something happening, but they really, really did not do that character any favors. And the guy, I don't even remember the guy's name. The bad guy that was like controlling the Red Room.
Right.
Don't even remember his name. He's not
super forgettable.
Villain.
Right.
Yeah, super forgettable. So, yeah, I think that's how Phase 4 has suffered. It's not because of these characters that they're introducing, because we've praised a lot of these characters. Like Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel was a great casting, incredible casting, but some of these villains are just falling flat, and that's where people are starting to get tired of the MCU and stuff like that, I think. But we have Kang coming in the future of the MCU, and he did great in Loki. So, we've been talking about all the amazing aspects of the MCU going forward of the last couple episodes. Like you said, a great villain can make or break a show, and it makes The Boys. Without Anthony Starr as Homelander, I don't know if this show would be that interesting, because Karl Urban as Billy Butcher is great. Jack Quaid as Huey is great as well. But beyond that, I don't know if there is a performance that carries this show.
Nothing even close to what Homelander does. Like the Homelander carries it. It's
absolutely.
At least it's good, but if you didn't get what you're getting from Anthony Starr and Homelander, the show is significantly further down on any rating. It doesn't hit the same, and that's why there were rumors of Anthony Starr possibly playing Dracula in the Blade movie, and I'm absolutely, I would 100% be down with that. Because we see what he can do with Homelander. Why bring him to the MCU? Give us a good villain. And even better if it's in Blade. That would be sweet. If that rumor is true.
Last episode, Zane is just going to be outside his mind when Blade comes out next year.
Right. Just give me Blade. Give me Ghost Rider. We got the Ghost Rider Easter egg in the She-Hulk trailer. Just give me more.
Mm-hmm. There's been rumors floating around, and I don't know about this casting. It seems kind of odd to me, but there's been rumors flying around that Ryan Gosling wants to play Ghost Rider in the MCU. Kind of weird casting, but as long as we get Ghost Rider in the MCU,
right?
Whatever.
I just want it.
Who cares?
Just give it to me.
Yeah, right. So, anyways, that kind of leads up to the penultimate moment in the finale, where Homelander is addressing the people, and some dude, I think, throws a bottle at him or something like that. Homelander just torches him with his heat vision, and there's probably 5 seconds of silence. Homelander just killed a dude in public, over basically nothing. Sure, I mean, the guy, it wasn't nice of the guy to throw a bottle and call him a name or something like that, but you killed a dude. You killed him. And then all of a sudden, Jerkface McGee, MM's daughter's stepdad,
that guy
just yells, oh my gosh, when MM punched him in that episode,
so satisfying.
That might have been the most satisfying moment in the whole season of The Boys. Oh my gosh, that dude is just a pile. Oh, man. Anyways, he yells out and everybody starts cheering. Oh man, that moment was wow. The crazy part about that moment was you can see this happening in our society today. Not necessarily killing a person, I feel that's far, but that drives the point home where politicians can literally do something terrible in public, everybody watching them, and then 2 weeks later, they can still be on the Senate floor or, doing what they normally do because there's no repercussions for them. It feels like that fits in today's society. And that just goes to the whole kind of underlying tone of realism in this show. Obviously, it's a satirical, comedic take on what's happening in our society today, and they push it to the extremes. But man, that was a moment where I was wow, this is crazy that this is happening in this show right now. Cause it just seems so, again, it's one of those things that's on the nose, but not quite. I'm driving this nail into this piece of wood, and instead of I feel most things try to do it a different way. Most shows try to take a different angle at it and do it in a creative way that's not, hammering the head of the nail. The Boys is hammering the head of the nail, but they're kind of glancing off to the side a little bit. They're not right on the nose, but they're pretty dang close. So just
well, I think part of that too, and I think that's going to really even go into what we're going to get with season 4, is just the fact that you're playing on that fear, because that happens. Like, what do you do? And like, I've heard some of the comparisons, like if you've seen the movie Brightburn, like this is like the kid from Brightburn grown up, and it's just like, yeah, he just zapped a guy, middle public, but it's just like, if someone has that ability, then like you can't stop. Like, what do you do? Like you're just put in this position of like it's no longer of admiration but fear. And I think you get to that point, and I think that's more of what we're gonna get with 4, because like Homelander always said that, just like, hey, I can do whatever I want because no one can stop you. And like when you get to that point, it's like, yeah, like there's nothing anyone literally can do to stop that. And yeah, you get that, like the whole Brightburn comparison. Like, what do you do? Like you can't take this person out. And
and earlier in the season, like they end the season 2 with the boys and Starlight have kind of this dirt on Homelander of like, they have the videotape of him
from the plane
throwing people off the plane and destroying the plane. And at the beginning of this season, he's like, what are you going to do? If you release the tape, I'll just go crazy and kill a bunch of people.
Like, yeah, he literally calls the bluff on that. And he's like, what are you going to do? I'm just going to go dismantle the Pentagon. Yeah. I'm just going to go destroy all this stuff.
I'll single-handedly destroy this country.
Right. Like, what do you do?
To release it.
Right.
So then that brings it back to, like, now they're kind of in the same spot they were before, where they don't really have leverage necessarily on him. And they kind of did with Stormfront, because like he had that connection, he had that relationship, he loved her, and when they kicked the crap out of her in season 2, it was like, oh gosh, okay, now he's actually going to care about this. But now they're kind of back to square one in this season after, and that's why they end up going to track down Soldier Boy, because they're like, all right, well, if we have no leverage on him, then we just got to end up taking him out. Like that's kind of the, I think that's a criticism that some people have had of this show, is that like they finally get this leverage and then they reduce it to, oh, well, now we just got to go kill Homelander again. So what have the first 2 seasons built up to that kind of just gets reset in season 3? But like at the same time, like you were saying, this dude is invincible. Like, what else do you do? They've been trying as much as they can to get dirt, get leverage, get anything on him. But I guess in my mind, that's just the way it goes when you're going up against like kind of an unstoppable force. So yeah, that's a good comparison. I would say there's one storyline that doesn't pan out, in my opinion, and it's Black Noir. I really like that they dive into his character a little bit this season, and we learn that he was on Soldier Boy's team, back before Soldier Boy got captured, and he basically gave him up. And I like how they dive into his character, but then in the last episode, Homelander just kills him, and then it's over. And it's like, we don't even get a Black Noir Soldier Boy showdown. We don't get really even a Homelander Black Noir showdown, because Black Noir is just there, and then Homelander just kills him.
Well, I feel like the bigger part of that was to show more of how unhinged Homelander's becoming, because like Black Noir was like his most trusted person on the 7, and like that's just how scared, or just how off go crazy Homelander was. Like he just killed the person he trusted most, and it's just like, yeah, that's what it was. I like, agree, straight wild card.
But what's to me, it was like you spent a lot of time in this Black Noir storyline, like him off by himself, going back into his past, all these cartoon characters, like helping him relive his past. They made it seem like it was going to be a big deal. And then to me, that payoff just wasn't enough.
Well, I feel like more of his story was less for Black Noir. It was more of establishing more background on Soldier Boy.
True. Yeah. And that's ultimately what it came down to, I think. But I would have liked to see him at least get a crack at Soldier Boy and like have a showdown or something like that. Or even have a fighting chance. I mean, obviously, he's probably not going to last long against Homelander, even if he is fighting him. But at least, like, have him turn on Homelander and see a showdown between them two. Like, I just thought the very final part of that storyline, like, I was invested in that storyline, and then it just didn't really pan out for me.
I mean, so for all we know,
that was my one.
Right, but for all we know, like, moving forward, like, they could still keep with the whole Black Noir clone thing and just bring another clone of the original Black Noir, because, like,
or
that would
that
also
he's still alive, because,
mess
like,
up
he got
Homelander.
his head bashed in the earlier, like, when he was in Nicaragua, like, giving up Soldier Boy, like, dude got his half of his head blasted off, basically, and he still survived. So I know there's been speculation that he could potentially still be alive, and Homelander's just, like, basically keeping him like he was keeping Maeve or whatnot earlier in the season. So I hope that's the case, because I want to see some payoff in that storyline. I want to see Black Noir back, because I'm too invested in his storyline to just let him go at this point. So
right. I always like the fan theory of, like, Black Noir is, like, an offshoot or, like, a clone of Edgar. I still think that would be a cool.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Like, granted,
I don't know, though, because
other things have happened or whatever, but, like, that would be, or some sort of further connection with Edgar.
Right. There's definitely more connection there for sure, because, like, I mean, they were obviously kind of dealing under the table to get rid of Soldier Boy for that part of it. But, like, I don't know about the clone thing, because, like, we see Edgar not even we do see him in a full flashback. He doesn't really interact with Black Noir in that flashback, but in the animal flashbacks that Black Noir is having, he talks to Edgar, and that's how we find the connection between him and Edgar. Like, he blackmailed, or backstabbed Soldier Boy. But, like, if you go back to that flashback where you see Black Noir and you see Edgar is quite a bit smaller than Black Noir, and Black Noir is, like, actually, side note, I absolutely loved how we didn't see Black Noir's face until the flashbacks, and we still don't see his face after the flashbacks. Like, the only time we ever see his face is in flashbacks, which I think is more
stuff that they can do with that. The fact that the current Black Noir, like, you never actually saw his face. Like, you don't.
That's true.
Like,
okay,
you don't know what could be hidden there. And that's my point of, like, it could be in, another clone, or the Black Noir in this could be a series of clones. Like, they could just be interchangeable. Like, I don't know how it could work in there, but I feel like that's got to be noting something. The fact that in the present time, you never see his face. So arguably, that could be anyone at any given time,
Yeah. I'm on board with that, Zane. I like that. I absolutely love that they do that, though. Just keep the mystery of Black Noir and the, intrigue of the character alive, and definitely made me invested. So yeah, that was my only complaint, I guess, about this season. And I wouldn't even, it's not something that broke the season for me, obviously. Still 6 out of 6. And honestly, at this point in my year, The Boys is going to be fighting with Stranger Things 4 for the best TV show of the year for me. I'm going to have a hard time deciding that for my Stan Lees. Like, I think Stranger Things 4 probably has an edge on it at this point, but I absolutely love this season of The Boys, so it's up there.
You know what? Well, just going back on this quick, I just had this thought dawn on me, and I know you'll love it just because you just love theories like this. Okay, here we are. So, we obviously, Black Noir, the mystery of stuff. What if we get into the next season, and the big reveal, they finally take off the mask, and it's Nicolas Cage? Because, I mean, he was Spider-Man Noir. Like, he just give him, it's just Nicolas Cage playing Black Noir.
Nicolas Cage. Oh my god.
Just give him anything noir.
100% in. Oh my
like I said,
that would be
I mean, you're in
amazing.
on anything Nicolas Cage. It's just
Anything Nicolas
face,
Cage, I'm in on.
Nicolas Cage, Black Noir.
Gosh.
Make it
my
happen.
gosh, that would be
Amazon.
so funny.
Make it happen.
And they don't acknowledge it at all. They just
don't
play it like 100%, like he's been there the whole time. Oh my gosh, please.
I need it.
Let that be the thing. All right, Amazon Prime. I know you're listening. Make it happen. Season 4.
Make it happen.
Nick Cage as Black Noir. All right, Zane, I think we are going to move on here, but man, incredible season of The Boys. They're going to be very highly mentioned on our Stanley Awards later in the year for sure, I think. So, any other questions, comments, concerns on The Boys before we move on to our hot snot?
Not really. Like, I'm just looking forward to season 4. Like, I don't know. Like I said, with every season, they've continued just the same pace, the steady, and like I hope like my expectations are being met. I hope that just continues, and just season 4, they come out and just continue knocking it out of the park like they have been.
Yeah, and like I mentioned in the non-spoiler review, like they've done an incredible job of building, even though the stakes seem like they are so high, they keep getting higher every season, and that's just a testament to the vision of the showrunners and the writers and all that stuff. Like, you know, we're seeing it in Stranger Things as well. They clearly had a vision for this show before they started putting it together, and it is paying off very well. So kudos to everybody involved with The Boys. You guys are doing an awesome job, and can't wait to see what season 4 has for us. So I don't know how crudity, not nudity, crudity wise, but not even a word. We made it up on the Infinity Rose podcast.
That's fine.
Crudity wise, how much more wild can you get than this season, though? With a giant wiener and Herogasm. Can you get more crude than you did this season?
Well, I feel like that's the same thing we've asked every single season, and they found ways to do it. So
that's true.
I'm not going to put it past them. Like, I'm sure they'll find a way. I don't know how, but I'm sure they'll figure out a way.
If there's anybody that can figure it out, it's them.
Yep. All
right, Zane, let's move into our hot or snot.
Hot or snot.
So our hot or snot is a segment where we like to give a couple things that we've been digging and a couple things that we haven't been over the last couple weeks. And it's been a hot minute since we've done a hot snot segment. So Zane, why don't you go ahead and first with your hot or snot? Tell us what you've been into lately.
Not a whole lot. No. No. So let's see. What was it last week? Me and Max went to go see Nope in theaters. Nope is Jordan Peele's new movie. Highly recommend it. It's less of a venture of horror and more of a sci-fi movie, I suppose, but so well done. Like, Jordan Peele's definitely establishing himself as the director that, like, he knows what he's doing. He knows the symbolism that he's putting in, the parallel, like all these things, the different ideas and the tones he wants to draw and wants to draw from the viewer. Like, he's capturing it, and he's doing a very good job of it. So, Nope, great movie. I'd recommend anyone go see it. The fantastic cast. Daniel Kaluuya is a wonderful actor. One of the things too, kind of coming from it, that even if you might not like all the twists or everything that happens, one thing I got to give props of Jordan Peele with this movie is the fact that this movie was incredibly original. Like, you see so many movies that, like, this other ideas or other stories or whatever, like, he took this idea, like, I've never seen the idea play out before of what he did with this movie. And so just from the sheer originality of it, it makes this movie that much better. So,
and I think that plays into what makes a great horror movie too, is like, I mean, it's kind of weird because the horror genre has has two sides of it where, number one, people love the predictable horror storylines, like all the tropes. People love that stuff. Horror people love that stuff. But on the other side of it, if you can make an original story that people can't predict, man, then you're setting up your audience for a heck of a ride. And if it's something that they haven't seen before, I mean, they could come out with an awesome experience that, you know, obviously they haven't seen with any other horror sci-fi film before. So I think that's awesome. And I haven't watched Nope yet, but I got that same thing with Get Out. One of his, I think that was his first.
Yeah, that's his first one. Yep.
That he directed. And just, man, I had never seen anything like it. And I'm not like a horror guy or anything like that, but there was twists in that movie that I did not see coming at all. And just incredible that he's able to capture that, and sounds like he's keeping it up with his most recent movie. So that's awesome. What would you rate it?
I'm gonna say I'm gonna give it a solid 5.5 out of 6. Very, very good movie. Very, very rewatchable, because it's also one of the, like, you want to watch it again just to pick up on stuff that you missed the first time. There's very much a lot of that in that movie as well. So everyone go see that movie. Another thing that I just finished watching, and oddly enough, it was Joey who kept talking about this movie, her show, so I finally watched it. The Terminalist on Amazon Prime. Fantastic show.
He's been talking about that.
He's been talking, and like I was like, yeah, it's on my list. I'll watch it. I finally watched it. Wonderful show. It's definitely, like, it's Boys is still number 1 on Amazon. I would probably give Invincible number 2, but I would easily put Terminalist as number 3 as far as top shows on Prime. And main actor obviously is Chris Pratt. Fantastic job in this show. The one knock that I'll give this show is I don't like the ending. I think that they could have done the ending better, but everything else, how this show runs, is so good.
Is it set up to be like an ongoing series, or did they kind of like end it? Okay.
They end it, but like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the ending. I would have done things different, changed it a little bit, would have made the ending more satisfying, I think. Like, I understand the way they ended it and why they ended it the way they did. I was just like, if they would have tweaked some things, it could have been a better ending. But everything before that last 10 minutes, fantastic. You still get the resolution to the entire story, and you get, you know, all the main points that needed to be addressed and hit are addressed and hit. And then I thought they did a good job of that. Great action, a lot of fun. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. The Terminalist, Amazon Prime. And also I don't know if anyone else has been watching it. They dropped the first 3 episodes of season 3 of Harley Quinn on HBO Max, the Harley Quinn, the animated show. And again, like, this is a very adults only show. Like, it's animated, but it's not for kids. They dropped the first 3 episodes, and without missing a beat, they just kept everything going in stride that they had from seasons 1 and 2. Still that same humor, still the same, like, they just took it and they're like, all right, we're going to keep running with what worked in the first 2 seasons. So I'm excited to keep getting more episodes of that. It was nice to kind of sit and watch those. And there's the one episode, Nightwing comes back, and it's fantastic. That whole interaction they have, because the whole thing's a parody on everything, and just everything with Nightwing and the Bat Family. I was just like, this is well done. I needed this in my life. This might be the best thing DC's putting out right now, and it's literally just making fun of DC properties. But
that's awesome.
But when you think about it, like, that's kind of DC's best stuff, because that's what they did with Peacemaker, and Peacemaker is fantastic. That's what they're doing with Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn's fantastic. So, like, yeah, 2 thumbs up on that. Let's see, if I'm going to rate those first 3 episodes, I'm going to give them a 5. All 3 together, I'll give a 5 out of a 6 for those first 3 episodes. They were fun.
Nice. Got anything else, or is that it for your hot stuff?
Nope, that's pretty much it. Like, I'm just kind of sitting here waiting, like, for Gundam Evolution to come out. I mean, Jarrett talked about that constantly.
We're kind of in a little bit of a weird hole right now until She-Hulk comes out later this month.
Right,
so
it just kind of
I'm glad we got to talk about The Boys, because this was a good show that we needed to talk about.
Yeah, we're kind of in that calm right now. Like, we're kind of in between, like, video games coming out. We're kind of in between movies coming out, TV shows coming out. So,
gosh, just think back to like last year or the year before that, where we would go months in between like big releases of shows and movies when COVID was still kind of like wreaking the entertainment industry,
and we'd still find things to talk about.
Episodes. Yeah, we'd have our whole episodes of nerd news and hot and snot and top 6. Like, just, man, now it's like we try to cram as much content as we can into an episode because we have so much to talk about.
Right, literally.
It's like the complete opposite. We're skipping segments because we have so much to talk about.
We're having the opposite issue.
Stuff. Opposite issue for sure. All right, I've got a few things. My first thing is, I'll call it a snot because I was kind of disappointed by it, but it's still solid. So it's the season 3 or 4? No, season 3 of Umbrella Academy. It was disappointing is basically what it comes down to. There's still really great beats in it. Five and Klaus are great in this season, but man, they just, I don't know, they dumbed down Luther. Allison and Vanya Victor are just annoying. And how many times can you go through an apocalypse before you have to end the show? Like, it's still good and it's still engaging. I'd still give it a 4 out of 6. Like, it's solid filmmaking. It's still fun, but at this point it's getting kind of tired, I think. And I don't know, like, I'll still watch the next season because I'm invested in the show, but I don't know how you keep engaging your audience with repeating apocalyptic storylines. You know, it just,
right. Like, how do you keep
basically the same storyline? And I don't know, man. It was a little bit of a disappointment this season. And Luther, I think Robbie's mentioned on previous episodes, like, Luther was one of my favorite characters in, you know, the first couple seasons, because even though he kind of is a little bit of an idiot at heart, like, he's got heart. Like, that's part of his character. And in this season, they just made him just a big dumb idiot. And I really didn't appreciate that about him. But again, Klaus, this is probably his best season. His storyline is great in this season. 5 is great as always. Like, he's always a fun part of every season. But Klaus really grows into who he is as a superhero, or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, just overall kind of disappointing, and still decent, still watchable. But I was definitely expecting more from it, so kind of a bummer. And I know you mentioned that you haven't even finished Umbrella Academy because of that reason, because that's what everybody's been saying, is that it's just kind of, and Netflix too, this part of this is on Netflix's fault. They have 0 advertising for Umbrella
also
Academy.
True.
Like, it dropped and we were all like, oh,
no one knew.
I guess Umbrella Academy's out now. Like, okay, all right, I guess we got to watch that now. Like, 0 advertising. They had a little bit of advertising for Stranger Things at least, but
yeah,
nothing for Umbrella Academy. Like, why is their marketing so bad for an online company? Just,
I don't get it.
It's so weird. I don't understand. It's just odd. So that's part of that is on Netflix's fault, that they weren't hyping anything up. And you know, maybe that's a good thing, because maybe if I got hyped up about it, I'd be even more disappointed in this season. I don't know. But Yeah, a little bit disappointing this season. That was my only snot, though. My two other things are hots. Number one is Gray Man on Netflix. It's the movie with Ryan Gosling as basically Jason Bourne, and Chris Evans is kind of the main antagonist in this, and it was really great. Like, honestly, if you're looking to watch a mindless action flick, very similar to the Jason Bourne movies, really fun. It was Ryan Gosling is... I wouldn't call him the worst part of this movie, but like his character is just like kind of a funnier version of Jason Bourne. And he like has all these skills, and he's running away from the government. And Chris Evans is the best part of this movie, in my opinion. He is so funny as this antagonist who looks like he's just straight out of the 70s. Got this like trash stash and like super tight clothing, and like, oh my gosh, he was fantastic. He was what made this movie for me. But 5 out of 6 on that movie. It's on Netflix. It's a fun watch. So definitely, if you're just looking for a mindless action movie to watch, that's a good one to pick and kind of go through. And my last hot is Multiversus, which is a game that just dropped, and Zane and I played it on stream on Thrifty Thursday last week. Really fun. So this is like basically a Super Smash Bros. Type brawler, where 4+ characters get dropped on a map, and you just got to duke it out until somebody wins. And there's more depth to this than I thought there would be. So for those of you guys who kind of pay attention to this scene, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl came out probably a year ago now or something like that. And to mixed reviews, like, it's fine. If you're really into Nickelodeon, it's more fun because they have the Nickelodeon characters, obviously. But like as a game itself, it's really nothing special. I'd probably give Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl like a 3 out of 6. Like, it's a fun to play with friends type of thing, but there's really no substance to it otherwise. Multiversus is not that. I'll give Multiversus a 4.5 because it's got more potential than Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl does. Like, they've got more team up modes that are better than Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. I think the leveling up system is pretty cool. Like, you gain XP for each of the characters that you play as. You gain perks for each of those characters and stuff, and you can unlock characters. Plus, WB has a ton of properties that they can dive into. And I was thinking about it. I was like, so we've got WB is the owner of this game. So you've got Superman, Wonder Woman, Harley Quinn, Batman, right off the bat as DC characters. You've got Shaggy, Velma. So you're getting, probably some more Scooby-Doo characters, probably some more DC characters, but like, they haven't even touched on a lot of their properties. And they have like Arya Stark as well in there. Like, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. So they must have worked out some deal with HBO. Does WB have connections with HBO? That's interesting how that worked out. I don't know.
No, WB, does it own, or they're in partnership with HBO?
Okay,
that's why all their stuff goes to HBO. But like, that's why, like, if you, which
right, because they're all on HBO Max. That's right. Okay.
Which, to add on that, like, LeBron James from Space Jam 2 is a playable character.
Oh,
like,
gosh.
From watching that movie, you see all the properties, like, anything in there. Yeah. Looney Tunes,
Iron Giant. That's
Iron
one of the playable characters as well. But like, they haven't even touched on Lord of the Rings. They haven't touched on Harry Potter. They have a lot of these properties that they absolutely are going to throw more, playable characters in there. So they have a lot of potential to grow, just character-wise, which I feel like Smash Bros, like Nintendo, that's the biggest storyline with Smash Bros every year. Who's the new character they're going to come out with? And I think Nickelodeon is pretty limited to, like, obviously Nickelodeon properties, which, to be honest, I did not watch Nickelodeon as a kid. I booted up All-Star Brawl, and I knew, like, the Ninja Turtles, and, like, I knew who Aang was, but I hadn't watched Avatar enough to know some of the Avatar characters. There wasn't a whole lot that I was like, oh, yeah, you could be this and you could be this. They had SpongeBob in there, but, it wasn't as diverse as you can get with WB. So I think they have a lot of potential with that game. Maybe we'll be playing with a little bit on stream if we get bored of all the other free games this month. So yeah, but it was a good time. I don't know, Zane, maybe let you comment on it a little bit since you played with me, but I thought it was a good time, so I'd give it a 4.5 out of 6.
No, that's where I was sitting at it with 4.5. It was fun. Like, I'm not typically one that's like a huge fan of those games, but like I would put more time into that because it very much played significantly more like Smash Bros. Like, it still had that feeling. You had characters you're familiar with, just the whole, how they use with the leveling and stuff, and the fact that the play in the 2v2 that we were playing, that was super fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, the different modes they had were actually pretty interesting because like I haven't played Smash Bros in a while, so I don't even know if they have modes like that, but like it was very team oriented, and they even have an original character who is like specifically suited to playing like team modes basically. So it was just like, oh, this is pretty cool. They have some interesting stuff in here that is unique to them as like a fighting game, which I think they need because honestly, when this game was coming out, I was like, oh great, another copy paste of Super Smash Bros. Like cool, So, but I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was a fun play. So,
as a free to play game, absolutely, like it.
Yeah. Also, that is a huge draw as well. Is that it's free to play right now, so you can download it on any platform and check it out. Definitely would recommend at least checking it out. If you're not into like the brawler games, probably might not be your thing, but still definitely worth a free download. But if you're Max, you've got an aversion to free games, he probably won't be playing it, but definitely worth a download and just checking out. So, well, Zane, that's about it for today. We've got more to talk about later, but we'll get into that on a different episode. Thanks so much for joining me, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for, I guess, doing morning episodes.
Yeah.
Everyone's always like, hey, let's do this at night. And it's like, oh, I'm at work. Have fun, guys.
Yeah, I know. I always feel bad when it comes down to Sunday night because I know I can almost always count on you to, if I can't get an episode together with anybody else, I can be like, all right, Zane is going to be free Friday, Saturday night. But when it comes to Sunday night, obviously I know you're back at work. So I was like, dang it, who else could I get an episode together with? So glad it worked out for sure. You to join us. So.
Absolutely.
And Infinity Bros Universe, thank you so much for making us a part of your podcast experience. We appreciate you guys. If you want to check out the Infinity Bros, you can do so at theinfinitybros.com or follow us on any social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube. You can find us on Twitch a little bit more. Finally kind of getting back into the swing of things. We had a little bit of a hiatus, but usually are streaming a couple times a week on Twitch. Thrifty Thursdays for me. In the mornings on Thursdays, usually from like 9 to 11 a.m., we check out a free game. So make sure you come and hang out with us. Well, Zane, anything else to say to the Infinity Bros universe before we sign off for the day?
Yeah, thanks for listening. And
if you want to check out exclusive content, you can check out our Patreon and find an exclusive podcast, exclusive portions of our podcast, as well as uncut episodes. You can get Mark and Max bickering and every single thing that they say instead of all the things that Max usually edits out of our podcast. It's a good time. But thank you again for making us a part of your podcast experience. We love you 3000. We'll catch you next time in the Infinity Bros podcast. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.